Hello everyone, it's Michele Tittler from the political organization Endrace-Based Law in Canada. This is my political partner, Gerry Gagnon.
Morning.
And on June 27th, 2024, the date of this recording, at 11:11, today's topic, episode 9, is how the Aboriginal industry wins in court. Gerry's going to explain it to you. This is from a post from endracebasedlaw.ca. And that he is now resurrected. So, Jer, hit it.
Okay, this is actually an extension of our last podcast, which introduced that monster known as the Aboriginal industry. And probably the major component, the major component of this industry is the legal industry. Lawyers, lawyer judges, etc. Were the creators of this industry, not just ones who profit massively from it. Now, today's first excerpt that I want to read is from an anthropologist who testified at several Aboriginal rights court cases and treaty cases until, I think, from reading his book, he became too disgusted to continue. The book is called The Invented Indian, and James A. Clifton is the anthropologist who edited this book and wrote his own introduction. It's a series of essays on different aspects of the Aboriginal industry and the invented Indian. So today, the Canadian people have been confused by a series of court rulings that have reopened the issue of who owns Canada 150 years after the fact. Clearly written treaties, contracts with the simplest language possible, are reinterpreted and end up meaning the opposite of what they so obviously say. Just another Orwellian aspect of what's going on these days. Canadians justifiably wonder just what in the hell is going on in these courtrooms. Now for Mr. Clifton, quote, "In these trials by history, i.e. law office history, watching the highly skilled, forceful attorneys at work serving the Indian cause was a thoroughly eye-opening experience. From them, I learned much about the selective use and suppression of historical and anthropological evidence, systematic distortion of facts in support of a preconceived theory of the case, the dexterous manipulation of judicial and public sentiments, perfectly astounding hyperbole, and the most outrageous fabrications.
Lies.
Watching some experts approach the witness stand with hats in hand, and others demur when caustically coached about how and what they should testify to, balking myself when pressed to distort or suppress interpretations and sources, I concluded that in Indian treaty rights cases, the standards of evidence and logic are not what they are elsewhere, especially so in scholarly work. The paramount aim I had explained to me by an unusually impetuous counsel was not veracity, but to win at all costs. These particular attorneys were interested in neither truth nor social consequences, except those of obtaining for their clients the largest short-term benefits attainable, money and power." And that's anthropologist James Clifton. I'd like to read one more excerpt from the book we referenced in our last podcast, Disrobing the Aboriginal Industry by Widdowson and Howard. Quote, "Lawyers working for Aboriginal organizations, therefore, use academic work only if it supports their demands. At the same time, government attempts to pacify Aboriginal groups inhibit Crown lawyers from presenting scientific evidence in opposition. This means that although at any given time a number of different theories may be circulating about Aboriginals' position in modern society, The increasing amount of funding being made available for Aboriginal rights claims seriously limits the kind of research deemed to be acceptable. And with so much money at stake, Aboriginal people themselves become intellectually corrupted, refusing to cooperate with any researcher who attempts to tell it like it is, if that version undermines their own interest. Now, I would also like to point out here that Jody Wilson-Raybould, who was an Aboriginal activist long before she became Canada's Justice Minister, the day before she resigned as Justice Minister, people remember the famous scandal surrounding all of that, the day before she resigned, she issued a mandate to federal Crown attorneys to no longer oppose Aboriginal court cases, but to work with them to find a solution. So if you wonder why they win almost any case, which is then used by them to say, see, we are justified in this, we are deserving of this.
Because the system is rigged.
But we don't have lawyers in court defending the interests of Canada itself at this point.
Not to mention the fact that Natives are given practically free law degrees in order to go to court and fight these things across Canada. This is what's happening behind the scenes while all Canadians go to work, taxpayers go to work, and fund all of this against them.
And there are several posts on both .com and .ca about this legal training going on in the universities, the legal industry's approach, and profiles of some of the law firms that are raking in the big money in this industry. We'll be also focusing specifically on that with another podcast down the road.
Just a quick side note before we say goodbye. I was falsely charged, and the connection led right back to end race-based law and what I'm doing. I won't go into all of that. But I was led, there was false charges, and they knew it, but they led me along. I went to 30 court appearances, and by the time I finally got to court, they surprised me with a prosecutor who was an expert in Native race law for the Natives. And in the end, and even the false charges didn't have anything to do with race-based law, but in the end, that's what I said, I was being persecuted, it was lawfare, and in the end, they brought in an expert who tried to do this, who attacked me for end race-based law. I slayed him, though, and he even got a little crush on me. Remember I told you that? He did. You do not want to mess with end race-based law. You know why? Because we are the experts.
Okay, so before we go, I just want to mention, I forgot to mention, the link to purchasing Mr. Clifton's book is on the post on the website. And check out our,
it is worth
our checking
merch.
out.
Check out our merch on our websites too, endracebasedlaw.ca, endracebasedlaw.com. And this is a subject we all have to start talking about in Canada, because we are from all around the world and we need to unite and with the Natives. I'm going to say that every single video. Come on, Natives, come along. End race-based law. Cheers.
Talk to you soon.